Should be now. Doop 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 doop. Yeah, there it is. It's very weird. Eh. Mm, 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 mm. All right. Let me know when you are ready.
I say that as my mic wasn't on. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm just still trying to pull the thing.
All right. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Booth Review. As always, I am your host, Devin Primrose, joined by the Sultan of Spice, Mr. Peter Strauss. What is going on, man?
The spice in me is nothing compared to the spice we had in the league this week. You talk about last week being chaotic. I think this is one of the more chaotic weeks of football we've ever had.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, there were some upsets. There was some happy celebrity news. Like, it was a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of history, a lot of embarrassment.
Yeah.
It's just a lot to go around.
Yeah. I mean, you make some good points. You alluded to a lot of things there.
That's my job. I'm the foreshadower.
Full disclosure to all of our listeners, I was on vacation for most of last week, kind of all over the Southeast. So I did not watch a ton of football this past week, and unfortunately didn't get the chance to. I tried to keep up with it, tried to watch it when I could, and certainly kept up with, the players on my fantasy teams. But unfortunately a little underprepared because of that, but I tried to catch up over the last 2 days or so, and I think I'm good to go. I think.
Don't worry. I watch all the games for you.
That's your job.
So
That's why I pay you to be here.
You pay me? Hold on. I have not been receiving these paychecks.
Must be a clerical error somewhere.
It's not like you have to mail them to me.
You should speak to you should speak to HR about that.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. But yeah, I watched all the games, so just know that all of my opinions are correct and all of Devin's opinions are misinformed.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. Well, let's just let's dive right into it, man. Who do you have as your best of the booth for this week?
Clearly, a lot of big things happened.
A lot
of big things. There was a lot of big numbers, big catches, big scores. Obviously, the biggest score of them all is Travis Kelce getting Taylor Swift to come to Arrowhead Stadium. Let's go. Let's go.
I saw a hilarious and terrible meme saying Travis Kelce scoring sixes on and off the field.
I think Taylor Swift is more than a six. That's disrespectful.
I agree. That's what I said.
That's
it's hilarious.
Very disrespectful.
It's hilarious and terrible at the same time.
No, I mean, Travis Kelce did have a heck of a game, and Patrick Mahomes playing through an ankle, like getting that rolled ankle right before halftime.
Hey, peg leg Pat.
To stay in the game to make sure his boy Travis got a touchdown for his girl, even though they were already up like 30-0 at that point.
Are we seriously already at the point of calling Taylor Swift Travis Kelce's girl?
I mean, that's the most Taylor Swift way to ever announce them actually being a couple that I've ever seen.
I hate this is news that we're actually talking about right now.
Why? It's great for the sport. It's fantastic. Football, like already the biggest sport in the world, is going to grow even more because Taylor Swift is involved. Refusing to play the halftime show, loving to play the greatest tight end of football.
Oh my God.
So I'm not. Travis Kelce did have a heck of a game. Caught 7 of 8 passes for 69 yards. Nice. And he got his touchdown. But honestly,
coincidental.
Listen.
Continue.
This is the PG show, sir. But honestly, I still want to stick with the homer pick on this. Kansas City's defense, and I know what you're going to say. They played the Bears this week. I understand, and I think this is more of like a how well they've done through the season through 3 games, which their first 2 games were against last year some of the best offenses in the league. The Lions still look like one of the best offenses in the league. I don't know what's happening in Jacksonville, but they've allowed 11 points per game through the first 3 weeks.
Well, that average did get bumped down a little bit by the Bears.
We only gave up
10.
9 to the. We only gave up 9 to the Jags, and only gave up
that's
14.
That's fair.
And only gave up 14 to the Lions.
That's fair.
Because
You're right.
the Lions got that defensive pick 6.
I forgot about the Tony tip.
And you think about it too. I did not know this. I mean, I thought they were pretty young, but Kansas City's defense is the youngest defense in the NFL in terms of starters.
It makes sense. Yeah.
And I just think, I said this a couple weeks ago, it's the best defense Patrick Mahomes has ever had. This is exactly what I wanted to see out of this team this week, is to beat up on a bad team, because we're not playing that many bad teams this year. And it just makes me really excited. I'm sorry that this is a homer pick, but I have to brag on him a little bit. I know there were bigger deficits, which I'm sure we'll get to in a minute.
Definitely
there were more exciting wins, but for me as a Chiefs fan, knowing that whether or not you want to call them a dynasty, they're getting real close based on how they looked, finally beating up on a bad team this week. So shout out to the young Kansas City defense. It's weird. Most of that defense is younger than us. So, think about that.
Listen, I don't want to think about it. It makes me feel old. But I agree. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know who's not calling this Chiefs team a dynasty. Like, at this point, they are a dynasty. They've been to, 5 straight AFC championship games?
Hosted 5 straight AFC championship games.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. Been to 3 Super Bowls over that time, won 2 of them. I mean, this is a dynasty, and it doesn't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon. And honestly, bringing up the whole Taylor Swift situation, I was listening to the radio earlier, and somebody mentioned that could be something that Travis Kelce can sit there and say to Chris Jones to keep him around. Hey, look, like this is stuff that happens when you're on a team like this. So maybe take a pay cut and get some of those extra benefits that you're not going to get elsewhere. Because and it's true. He mentioned Mark Andrews, who is, we would all agree, a top 3 tight end in the league, cannot go on a podcast and say, yeah, I tried to give Taylor Swift, whatever, and it just didn't work out. Like, he can't do that. He can't do that because he plays for the Baltimore Ravens, which that's no disrespect to the Baltimore Ravens, but they haven't been to 5 AFC Championship games. They haven't been to 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls. They haven't won 2 Super Bowls over the last 5 years, like the Kansas City Chiefs have. And you're playing with arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, certainly the greatest quarterback of this generation. Like, you get benefits like that from playing for a dynasty team.
Royalty stays with royalty. I see the point. Yeah. Taylor Swift, arguably the most famous person on the planet right now. I would say the only person who's ever been more famous than Taylor Swift is Michael Jackson. But I feel like that's getting real close.
Yep.
Getting for the first time an athlete instead of an actor or another pop star, who just happens to be the greatest at his position, possibly of all time, with one of the best teams of all time. So royalty stays with royalty. I see what you're saying there.
But I mean, and even on top of that, like, Travis Kelce is in like 6 different commercials because of the team that he plays for. He could be just as talented playing for the Chicago Bears, and it ain't going to happen because you're playing for the Chicago Bears, and the Chicago Bears ain't winning Super Bowls. But the Kansas City Chiefs are, and so that's why you get these extra opportunities presented to you. And so is that worth taking a pay cut? Hell yeah, that's worth taking a pay cut. Like, it's not a dramatic pay difference. Like, you're just taking a little bit less so that the team can pay other guys to stick around, and you guys keep rolling the dang thing out there.
If winning Super Bowls isn't enough, then I think that's a good benefit. Like, I'm sure there's, like, even if it's not like necessarily dating, like, any dream that you have after football, you can accomplish now with this team.
Yeah.
Because this team is famous enough and good enough to do whatever they want on and off the field.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Patrick Mahomes just bought part of the Royals. His wife bought part of the, like, they're buying all of Kansas City and opening Whataburgers left and right. Like, that's their dream. That's what they want. Like, they're just doing what they want.
Yeah.
And Chris Jones could do that too.
That's the stuff. That's the stuff that is unlocked to you by playing for a dynasty. So why would you leave that just because you want a couple more million a year? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. If it makes sense to him, good for him, but whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how we didn't start with my best of the booth. No disrespect to yours. Yours is fine.
It's because you asked me.
It's
your fault. Don't look over here like I did something wrong.
This is true. I didn't think about it in advance, but this was a ridiculous NFL game that we had on Sunday between the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos. And if you're unaware of the score, first off, get out from underneath the rock that you've been living under and go turn on a TV. If you don't know the score, I don't know what you're doing listening to us, but the Dolphins went off. And, like, it's not just one guy, it's like the entire team. So for my best of the booth, I wrote it down, the entire Miami Dolphins team. And let me just go through some of these numbers for you. The quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, 23 of 26, 3 incompletions. The dude had more touchdowns than he did incompletions. That's good for an 88.5% completion percentage. 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, wasn't sacked a single time, had a 155.8 passer rating, which, as we've discussed previously on this podcast, a perfect passer rating is 158.3. So pretty dang close to perfection when it comes to the passer rating. Devon Achane on the ground, 18 carries, 203 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. And if that wasn't enough, you know what? He had Tua passing the ball 4 times for 30 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns, put up a 51 fantasy point day, which is just ridiculous. If you happen to be starting him, which I don't think many people were, but if you did, you definitely won your matchup. Raheem Mostert, 13 carries, 82 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and then again decided to get into the receiving game as well with 7 receptions, 60 yards, and a receiving touchdown. And then this is crazy. This guy is 4th on my list of people to get to, but it's Tyreek Hill with 9 receptions, 157 yards, and 1 touchdown, which is kind of just like a typical day for him, but is still ridiculous. And then let's look at the other side of the ball, where the Miami defense forced 3 turnovers, 2 forced fumbles, and a pick. And just to give a kicker some credit, because I never do it, I hate doing it. Kickers are terrible usually. In fact, some this weekend missed some key kicks. Jason Sanders, perfect 10 for 10 on extra point kicks. Ridiculous day from this Miami Dolphins team. By the way, they're killing teams with speed because the top 5 fastest speeds clocked this year have all been by Miami Dolphins players. That's their key to winning, is you can't catch them.
Yeah, this is a dream team for Mike McDaniels. Also, class act Mike McDaniel. So the record for most scored points, I believe it's 72.
Yep.
In 1966.
Yep.
And they were close enough to where they could have kicked a field goal to break the record if they wanted to, but instead decided to take a kneel and end the game. So, like, Mike McDaniel, class act, just give him coach of the year now. What he's doing, like obviously there's a lot of talent on this team, and he just knows exactly how to utilize them.
Yeah.
Like, he's got them running everywhere in motion, doing motions. I think I saw a video where they're literally, like, most people, when they do motion, they bring somebody from the outside in or across, but they do a lot of inside to outside motions, which create those, like, natural picks essentially, and gets them confused on who's covering the outside guy. Just kind of swaps people around. Just incredible work that he's doing with these guys.
Yeah.
Also, what you didn't mention is, eventually they sat Tua because they were ahead by 60 points, or not 60, but they were ahead by a lot.
White Mike.
No, this is Tan Mike. This is Tan Mike. We've been waiting to see it. Tan Mike, 2 for 2 for 67 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, say what you want about how many attempts, 100 QBR and 158.3 passer rating.
I mean, it doesn't get more perfect than,
perfect.
2 for 2.
This is the secondary team from Miami. Mike White. And by the way, the touchdown pass, and I didn't know he changed his name legally to Robbie Chosen, which is
it's a little.
You're not
weird.
You're not Chad Johnson. You're not Ocho Cinco. You don't get to just do that, okay? But burned Surtain, who's one of the best at his position in the league.
Yeah.
Like, I have to credit that to Mike McDaniel. Like, even when they don't need to, like, he's just drawing up these plays that just work, no matter who they're playing. And this team, I feel like they could drop 70 points another game this year, depending on who they're playing. I think it's entirely possible that they just steamroll pretty much everyone they play this year.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, I've got to give you credit for being as on board the Dolphins as you were in the offseason, because I certainly was not. I did not know what they would look like, what Tua would be after his 15 concussions last year, and I didn't know what Mike McDaniel would be in year 2. But man, they have looked just as good as last year, and probably taking everything they did last year and turning it up to 11. So,
yeah. And again, like, part of when I did my schedule was if Tua stays healthy. I'm like, if Tua is in, they're dominating, which is exactly what's happening. Also, by the way, of all the quarterbacks to get contract extension, Tua didn't get one. This is technically his last year on contract with the Dolphins, and if
a lot of that has to come down to the fact that he's essentially been made of glass for most of his
Right.
career,
But
including his college days.
right now, if I'm Tua or Tua's agent, I'm getting in there and getting a contract extension done now because he's so valuable to that team. Like you look at Trayvon Diggs, him getting hurt, you're just like,
Yeah.
he got paid before he got hurt, so like he's fine. But like Tua's doing so much for this team, and if he gets hurt again before he gets paid, like it's just unfortunate. Like he deserves that money
True.
a lot more than a lot of the other, a couple of the other guys that got paid. Looking at Cleveland and Arizona.
True. True.
Just
Well,
pay him. Just
I
pay
mean,
him.
You mentioned Trey Diggs there, and that kind of goes well with my under review. As we know, Trey Diggs tore his ACL. Was that correct? I believe that's what it was.
Yeah, in practice.
Yeah,
which is
tore
a shame.
his ACL in practice, so he's out for the rest of the season. Obviously, one of the top corners in the league. But my under review is, again, because I didn't get a chance to watch enough of the games to really have a good one. I did see the scores from both of these games, and I can't really fathom how they happened just looking at box scores. But my under review is disappointing blowouts from expected playoff contenders, one of which I'll go ahead and give you a little tease. We have in our top 6 of our power rankings, and that's the Dallas Cowboys somehow managing to lose to the Arizona Cardinals, who I think we all universally thought were pretty bad, by 12 points. 28-16 was the final out there in that game. And then the other one, we all expect Jacksonville to kind of cruise control to a AFC South title. And they just got steamrolled by Houston 37-17. So I don't know what's going on with both of those teams. Jacksonville, I'm a little bit more worried about than Dallas. I think Dallas will figure it out. They've got enough big playmakers that they should be okay. But maybe that Trey Diggs injury is bigger than I would have necessarily thought. Obviously, he's a huge playmaker for them, but I think that defense should be good enough to still be dominant without him. But I don't know. Maybe there's a two worrisome trends to follow.
So you would think that missing Trey Diggs, obviously is a big deal, and you'd think that like Arizona would take advantage of that and like beat him in the air, right? Not the case. Josh Dobbs was only 17 of 21 for 189 yards and 1 touchdown in the air.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were burning them. They just ran the ball, and I think a big credit to that goes to Jonathan Gannon, who was, I believe, the defensive coordinator for Philly.
Yeah,
before coming to Arizona. And I think he just knows this Dallas team so well. And a lot of what they did with how they ran the ball reminds me of how Philadelphia beat the Cowboys in their first meeting last year, where they did a lot of RPO. They just looked at where Micah Parsons was on the field and said, okay, we're running the other way.
Yeah,
and that's what happened. James Conner had almost a 100-yard day. Joshua Dobbs, 6 carries for 55 yards. Rondale Moore, a wide receiver, was burning people on the ground, 3 carries for 54 yards. Like, Dallas couldn't stop the run, and Dak Prescott can't play from behind. He just can't do it.
Yeah.
It's not like the Cowboys were playing horrible on offense. Tony Pollard had 122 yards. Michael Gallup almost had a 100-yard day. Just when playing from behind, Dak Prescott can't perform in the red zone. And that's where his 1 interception came on the final drive, trying to catch up. Interception in the triple coverage. Like, I think this was a mismatch in coaching. I think we have underestimated the Arizona Cardinals a little bit. I'm not saying that they're going to go and win their division or make the playoffs. But in their first 2 games, they were, close with the Commanders the whole game. And they were beating the Giants by 20 points at the start of that game. So, like, I think there is potential in that team. It just didn't seem like they wanted to win. But now it feels like they could do anything, is what it feels like now. I don't think they're going to do a lot more. I think this was a lot of credit to Jonathan Gannon just knowing how the Cowboys operate and knowing that the key is just avoiding Micah Parsons at all cost.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a
Yeah.
huge win. As far as Texans and Jags, I think that defense for Houston is finally pulling together, and something is off in Jacksonville. I'm not sure what it is. They looked great against the Colts week 1, and then only put 9 up against the Chiefs, but we just talked about the Chiefs defense is like really good right now.
Right.
And it's not even Trevor Lawrence played bad. He had 27 of 40, 279, 1 touchdown, 1 pick.
It's not great numbers, but yeah.
He's definitely capable of doing better, but just CJ Stroud finally gets a win for because he's been putting up big numbers every week, and it's just finally, like you said, if everything clicks for them where they're good, and it finally happened this week. Tank Dell also shout out. I think he's the 3rd round pick for them this year. He's a rookie. 5 catches for 145 yards.
Yeah.
And a touchdown. They're clicking together. Their run game picked up a little bit, not as much as you would like to see out of Dameon Pierce or Devin Singletary, but just something is off in Jacksonville. I think Doug Peterson isn't the play caller anymore. I think he passed that job duty off, and I think maybe that's part of what's happening there.
Could be.
But they got to figure it out because the AFC South is way more wide open than anyone ever thought it would be this year.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Like I said, I mean, I think I think those are 2 trends to kind of pay attention to. Dallas is certainly a talented team, but I'm with you that offense can't necessarily play from behind. And then like you said, Jacksonville, something's just a little off there. It's not quite clicking yet like we expected.
But foreshadowing, they are going home this week, so maybe that'll help them out.
Back to London. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Who you got under review this week?
My under review, I'm going with Matthew Stafford. I know a lot of people were kind of questionable about him, but through the first 2 weeks he looked really good, and this Cincinnati defense hadn't been playing great. And I don't know, I just think that Matthew Stafford, 18 of 33 is 54.5%, 269, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. He's kind of getting back into that getting a little too risky and throwing picks at inopportune times and just letting games get away from him. It's not Joe Burrow has basically the same stat line with a few more pass attempts and no touchdowns. Which, by the way, Joe Burrow, I think they should have sat him. I don't think Joe Burrow necessarily won them this game. I think that was mainly their defense and their just Jamar Chase really getting the ball from him most of the time. But 25.2 QBR for Joe Burrow, which is still higher than Matt Stafford, if that says anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that injury for Burrow is certainly nagging him a little bit.
But I think this is a game that I think they should have won. And if they're going to keep up with the Seahawks or with the 49ers, they need to win games like these. That I get Cincinnati's a great team, but they haven't looked like it, and they're hurt. And this is a game that you should win. And I think Matt Stafford dropped the ball a little bit there.
I agree. I mean, to me, this is why I had them finishing so low in my standings, just because I feel like Matt Stafford is not going to be the same quarterback that won him a Super Bowl 2 years ago. He's not that guy anymore. Some of that's due to injuries, some of that's due to age, some of that's just due to team chemistry. I don't think it's all there. Obviously, Cooper Kupp being out is still a big loss to them. But I don't know. I just don't think that it's all there for that Rams team, and they're certainly getting older every single year. But we'll see. You got a legit or a counterfeit for us?
Yeah, so kind of blind QB test, legit or counterfeit here.
Okay.
I essentially have a quarterback A, who I
Mhm.
think is a quarterback that people have a lot of faith in right now, and I want to compare to some other quarterbacks that people either may not have faith in or are also kind of surprising with similar stats. So I'll send you the stats for quarterback A so you can, look at them perpetually as I read these other ones.
Okay.
Let me also don't look at my screen because it says their names and that's cheating.
I mean,
Just like split screen in Call of Duty.
listen,
It's frowned
if
upon.
the split screen is there for the viewing, and you know the map well
All right.
enough,
So
you do
this
what you gotta
is
do.
this is through all 3 games. All of these quarterbacks played all 3 games.
I feel like I know
For
who that
those,
is.
what's that?
I said I feel like I know who that is.
For those at home, quarterback A, who we will be comparing the rest of these guys to, for the first 3 games, 51 of 96, which is 53.1 completion percentage, for 655 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Would
Yep.
you? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, yep.
Would you rather have quarterback B, 62 of 104 for 59.6%, 689 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 picks?
No.
Even with higher yards and higher completion percentage.
Yeah, it's a lower touchdown to interception ratio,
Okay. Fair enough.
which means you're either getting unlucky because tip pass interceptions are a thing, or you are making mistakes.
I will reveal all the names at the end. I feel like that's the more fun way to do this.
Sure.
All right. Let's get a little bit better ratio here then. Quarterback B, 68 of 104. So same amount of pass attempts as quarterback
Right.
B.
Yep.
So 65.4% completion percentage. 791 yards, 6 touchdowns to 2 interceptions.
Yeah, I would take him over QBA, just because the completion percentage is up, the TD to interception ratio is very similar. So you're scoring, you're able to drive the ball, and you're not making a ton of mistakes or getting unlucky.
Okay.
So yeah, I would take
That's-
that one over QBA.
That's interesting. Okay. All right. QBC. No, this would be D.
Yeah.
Yeah, QBD. 59 of 82 for 72% completion percentage,
Right.
549 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks.
I'm interested as to what the rushing game for that quarterback is, because if he's doing everything, then that's not good.
Let me
That's a big lack of scoring happening.
let me pull that number up.
Which the rush game's got to be great if you're able to.
So far this season, in the first 3 games,
Yeah.
he has ran 12 carries for 93 yards.
What's the team rush stats though? That's also kind of the problem with this, is that like there's different situations and scenarios. But I would still take between these two. I would still take QBA,
Okay.
because again they're able to drive the field and score.
For the record, this QB's 93 rushing yards makes up for about a fifth of their total rushing yards on the season. They are second in rushing behind their lead running back.
Okay.
If that helps.
So yeah, I would still take QBA.
So not like a Josh Allen or
I would
Lamar
still take
Jackson.
QBA.
Okay. And lastly, QBE, 78 of 121 for 64.5% completion, 906 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks.
I have a feeling I know who that is also. I'm going to Sure. I would take them. Yeah. So
Okay.
QB C?
You said QBC and QBE you would take
Is
over
that right?
QBA.
Let me
Yeah.
try it. So I want to try and guess who A is.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain A is Jordan Love.
Yes, this was the whole point of this was legit or counterfeit. Jordan Love blind taste test.
I'm fairly certain QBE is CJ Stroud.
QBE is CJ Stroud.
What are the stats for the other three?
B is 62 of 104, 59.6%, 689 yards, 4-3 touchdown interception.
Ooh. That might be Desmond? No. May I don't know. Okay.
That would have been a good one for this test. It's not Desmond. It's
Okay.
Kenny Pickett. It's
Okay.
QBB.
Okay.
QBC was the 68 of 104, 65.4, 791, and 6-2 that you did say you would take over Jordan Love.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
That is Russell Wilson
I mean,
on the poopy Denver Broncos.
future Hall of Famer. I mean, honestly, if we can just like forget about what he's done in Denver thus far, which honestly this year hasn't been that, like, they're not losing because of him. Has he played lights out? No. He did play surprisingly well against Miami on Sunday. It's just the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. But I mean, who wouldn't take Russell Wilson over Jordan Love? I mean, I would take Russell Wilson in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I don't know. What's funny is last year, if they scored like 16 points or something,
Yeah,
they would have won like half
more of their games.
Yeah. And this year so far, I think they've scored at least 16 points every game and lost all 3.
Yeah. What was the stats for D?
QBD was 59 of 82, 72%, 549 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, and also had the 93 rushing yards.
Ooh, I don't know who that is.
That is Joshua Dobbs.
Yeah, I'm okay on that. So what I said is I would either take Russell Wilson or CJ Stroud, other than like over Jordan Love.
I should have picked one more QB because now it's a split 2-2. So is Love legit or counterfeit? We actually did not answer that.
I mean, I still I think that people within the media have been very quick to jump on board. If you've been in our Discord, this has been argumentative subject. I am not enamored by the guy. I like what I've seen from him. I think he's played very well for being a first-year starter. Blake hates me calling him that because this is his 3rd year in the league. Whatever, I don't care. This is actually his
fourth season.
4th year in the league because he sat behind Rodgers for 3. But this is his first year starting. So that makes a difference. Sure, you've been on the practice field for 3 years, whatever, but you're starting finally. That is different. So I think what he's shown has been great. Does the completion percentage need to go up? Absolutely. I think that will. There's been plenty of times where he has maybe been a little early throwing to a guy and they just weren't ready for it, but it was right on them. So that's not an accuracy problem. That's just a timing issue, which, hopefully those things get worked out in practice as you build chemistry with your receivers. There's instincts that you know, okay, my wide receiver is going to do this on this route. I'm going to put it here. The wide receiver knows where the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
all of that gets learned in practice with reps and in games. So I expect that. I expect the completion percentage to go up over the year. He's played very efficient. Like I said, 7 touchdowns, one interception is incredibly efficient. I expect. I hope that continues as tape gets out there on him. It might not. And then I like the decision making. He has had bad passes where he's missed guys that are wide open. There was one on Sunday to Musgrave, I believe. There was like a 40-yard pass that he overthrew him, which you don't want to see that when a guy's wide open. But I think he's been fine. I think the media, like I said, after that first game, the media definitely jumped on, oh, well, they're just going from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer to another future Hall of Famer. And, like, it's too early for all of that. And I'll admit that I got a little excited because I expected poop. I expected poop and was pleasantly surprised with what Jordan Love gave me. And I've been pleasantly surprised 3 games in. They're sitting at 2-1. They could very easily be 3-0 right now if the defense had been able to make a stop or if Jordan Love had been able to make a drive in the final minute against the Falcons last week. So they could very easily be sitting at 3-1. They're sitting at 2-3. It could easily be sitting at 3-0. They're sitting at 2-1. So I'm happy with it. I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand Blake's hatred for the guy in Discord, but I'm happy with where he's at.
So I will say that really he should be 1-2 because the Saints did miss the go-ahead field goal at the end of the game. That was one of the two big missed kicks this weekend, and we'll get to the other one when we talk about that team because I'm sore about that one.
If they had made that field goal, there was still a little bit of time left on the clock. So
that would have been his real test if he could have done one more 1 minute drill.
He would have gotten another try to drive him down the field, which in that fourth quarter they were doing whatever they wanted on the offense. So,
it's weird. Once Derek Carr left the game, even though they were up 17 points, all of the Saints' hopes and dreams just went out the window.
Yeah.
Left the Superdome with Derek Carr. Or no, they were at Lambeau.
I don't understand why people like Blake want to be so harsh on the guy. Like, he's sat on the bench for 3 years. Like, this is his first year starting. Like, let's give him a full season, see what happens.
Do you want to know why? It's the same reason why I set up this as the legit or counterfeit. It's because it's fun. It's fun to talk smack about your friend's team.
I think what it is jealousy of watching a team go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to potentially another good quarterback when you've had to watch Matt Ryan and a handful of other guys and not get it done.
Hey, Matt Ryan got them to a Super Bowl at least.
He didn't get it done.
No, he didn't.
And now you moved on from Matt Ryan to possibly a guy that won't be playing football for the Atlanta Falcons next season. So,
I'm curious about Desmond Ritter's stats for the year so far.
They're not great, but I don't know how much better than Jordan Love's they are. I don't think they're any better than Jordan Love.
This might have been why I skipped him because he's only 55. I mean, his completion percentage is better, but less attempts, less yards, and only 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. So
right.
That would have been an interesting one to add, but you probably wouldn't have taken him because it's his
but
touchdowns.
Again, that offense should not run through him. It should run through Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and mixing in Kyle Pitts and Drake London into the passing game when you can.
Which Kyle Pitts doesn't catch footballs. That's not his job. You know that.
Going back to the Jordan Love fiasco that we're dealing with, let's be mindful that he has played 2 of those 3 games without their top running back in Aaron Jones. and played all three without their top wideout, Christian Watson. And I believe the last two have been without David Bakhtiari, their star left tackle. So, like, let's give the guy a little bit of a break for that.
I'm glad I could give you this platform to. It was all a trick because I had a homer best of the booth, and now you look like the big biased homer now. So thank you.
I'm honestly trying not to be biased. Like, I'm not. I don't have delusions of grandeur. Like, I think this team is more talented than some people want to give them credit for. A lot of that is because the defense, I think, is going to be very good, and because they have playmakers on the offense. Jordan Love doesn't have to be a top 5 quarterback. He just has to be a top 15 quarterback, and that team can make the playoffs just because of the talent that's around him. So I don't understand the hatred for the only bad stat that you can point to is the completion percentage. Touchdown interception is a great ratio. His yardage is perfectly fine. He's been in the top 10 in QBR and passer rating. Like, what's not to like there?
Those are
One
conspiracy stats. We talked about this.
One stat.
That's why I left them out of the test because they're conspiracy stats.
I'm just waiting for this episode to drop now and just the flood of comments coming in the Discord from Blake. Like, it's going to happen.
Why do you think I did it?
Well, as we mentioned our Discord community as much as I literally just did, this year we're bringing back something that we did last year that we really enjoy, which is community power rankings. Basically, if you're a member of our Discord, you can vote for the power rankings, give me the top 10, and collectively, as a community, we will decide on the most powerful rankings, as we called them last year. So tonight, I'm going to debut our Week 4 power rankings.
It only took 4 weeks.
It only took 4 weeks. In the 10th slot, we have, surprisingly, the Cleveland Browns.
Boo.
In the 9th spot, Seattle Seahawks. 8th, Baltimore Ravens. 7th, Detroit Lions. 6th, Dallas Cowboys. 5th, Buffalo Bills. 4th, Philadelphia Eagles. 3rd, Kansas City Chiefs. And the top 2, I don't think they're going to surprise anybody with the way that they've played this year. In 2nd, the San Francisco 49ers, and in 1st, after that massive game on Sunday, the Miami Dolphins. Any major surprises to you?
I mean, I don't like Cleveland 10th, but I'm not surprised by it. Their defense is really good. They're even without Nick Chubb, their receivers keep bailing out the diddler.
Yeah.
So I think that defense is going to win them games. I'm not going to pick them to win any games, but the defense will win them games. So that's kind of how it felt with everybody at the 10th spot, because you could put like the Steelers, you could put I put the Colts personally.
When I counted them all up, I had votes somewhere in there for the Indianapolis Colts, for the Atlanta Falcons, for the Green Bay Packers, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, those were the 4. I think those were only the 4 of the teams that
it
got
was
votes.
Really any of the 2 and 1 teams, except for maybe like Washington, Tampa, and that's really it. New Orleans without Derek Carr would be the only reason I would say you couldn't put them there.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much any 2 and 1 team like you could put there, and it's acceptable.
It's tough. Like, collectively, we all had the same teams in our top 6, which makes sense. I think all 6 of those teams are a step above anybody else in the league. And then 7 through 10 was incredibly difficult to figure out. But 1 through 6 was pretty easy. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised too much by any of this. It's a little difficult after only 3 games to rank everybody. But, yeah, I think these are all teams that should be contending come the end of the year.
Yeah.
Outside of possibly Cleveland. But Cleveland has an incredibly good defense. Their offense just has to, get some things rolling. And obviously, without Chubb, it's going to be a little difficult. So we'll see. But I say it's time we put week 3 in the rear view, turn our attention to week 4. And hey, man, let's get a little bit picky with it.
Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it.
I feel like I should have mentioned this when doing the power rankings, but the link to our Discord is in the description of the episode. Click that link. You'll get an invite to our server. Come hop into the server and just talk some sports with us. Have some fun. But let's jump into week 4, starting us off on Thursday night. Over on Amazon Prime, we have the Detroit Lions making their way into Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. This is the game for my heart. I love both of these teams. One of these teams has been my team for my entire life. The other one is a new team for me. But I love both of these teams a lot. This is a hard game for me to pick because I'm torn. Man. Vegas has the Lions favored by 1.5 on the road. 1.5 point favorite, the Detroit Lions. I've got the Lions getting the win over the Packers again because I'm not delusional, and I know the Packers aren't quite on the Lions level. So yeah, give me the Lions over the Packers in Lambeau. I do think Green Bay could sneak out a win over the Lions this year, but I don't know if it happens this early in the season. Who you got, man?
I don't like you. We determined today. I went back and listened because you asked last week and I didn't know.
Yeah.
We figured out that I'm one game behind for the first 3 weeks. I'm 30-18 on predictions. You're 31-17. And I'm like, man, I know for a fact that he's going to pick Green Bay and I'm going to pick Detroit and I'm going to get an easy win. But no, you had to go against your home team. You're not even. Take off your. Are you wearing your Packers hat? Take it off. Take it off.
Because I'm not a blind homer like you, all right? Like, I can at least recognize when my team is not up to snuff.
How many games, like, you did it with Detroit because you should just wear a Detroit hat because the only other.
I honestly should.
That's when you pick Detroit in a game that they shouldn't have won. Probably they did win it, but they shouldn't have won it. Probably. Anyway, I'm going with Detroit. I was always going to go with Detroit, and I have to come up with a new strategy now. So,
well, good news for you. There's 15 other games this week.
I thought that one was for sure that I was getting on that one.
Let's move over to Sunday morning. We get a morning game at 9:30 a.m. over on ESPN Plus. I think also this is the Toy Story game.
This is the Toy Story game.
The Toy Story broadcast on Disney Plus, I believe, from Wembley Stadium in London. We have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the home team. I'm just going to go ahead and call them the London Jaguars. At home, the Jags are favored by 3 points. And I don't know if this is a spicy take or not, but I'm taking the Falcons in this one. I don't think everything is clicking there for the Jags. That offense certainly hasn't looked as good as it did down the stretch for the season. Down the stretch last year. Ooh, lost my train of thought. But let's point out this might be a Calvin Ridley revenge game. Because Calvin Ridley, as we know, was with this Falcon squad. He ended up leaving for mental health reasons, then got suspended for gambling reasons, and got traded to the Jags for basically nothing. and balled out in week 1. Maybe he can ball out again. Who you got, man?
The thing about the Toy Story cast,
Yeah.
right, is I'm interested. I love when they do the Nickelodeon ones.
Yeah.
Apparently they're going to do it for the Super Bowl this year. I probably won't do it for the Super Bowl if the Chiefs are playing. If it's not the Chiefs, then screw it, But I love what they do with the Nickelodeon broadcast.
Yeah.
The Toy Story podcast is going to be rendering 3D animation of the football game live.
That's going to be weird.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I might put it on my phone while the actual game is on and see how it looks, but I don't know about that
I mean, obviously, they've had to have tested it out over probably some last year, I would think, just to get everything working, get all the bugs fixed, all of that mess.
You want to talk about asking a lot of Disney VFX workers and why they're thinking about, unionizing and going on strike.
Yeah.
But that's a different story for not our podcast. Anyway, I'm taking the Jags at their real home.
Ooh.
I think if there's any time for them to click it together, it's in London where they belong.
Yeah.
Atlanta is a good team, but I think they are their offense is weak enough to where that defense can kind of click back together. I think Trevor Lawrence is still incredibly talented. Calvin Ridley, has a point to prove in this game. I'm going to take the Jags in London in their real home.
There we go. There's a disagreement right there for us.
Yeah, I just thought the Detroit game was going to be easier. Like this game, I feel like more so could go either way. I think Detroit is more of a gap from Green Bay than Jacksonville is from Atlanta.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I also saw, I believe it was for the Jags, that they're threatening to leave Jacksonville if Jacksonville, like the city, doesn't help pay for some of their stadium. Which would mean, obviously, they're moving to London.
If they go anywhere
Confirmed.
besides London, they can't be the Jaguars anymore. They would have to rebrand.
Yeah.
I can't
I
imagine
agree.
Jaguars being anywhere else besides those two cities.
I agree. Well, if you can find a quick, cheap flight, tickets for that game are as low as $36 over at Wembley. So good luck with the flight finding, but
How much is that in pounds?
this is not a currency podcast. So let's go from London over to Orchard Park and New York, where we have the 3-0 Miami Dolphins coming off that absolute thumping that they gave the Denver Broncos, heading in to Buffalo to take on the Bills. And man, I don't know if Vegas was watching the same game that I saw highlights of, because they have the Bills favored by 2.5 points, which I think is just disrespectful to this Dolphins offense. I'm taking the Dolphins over the Bills in this game. Don't get me wrong, this is going to be the toughest defense that the Dolphins have faced all year, but Miami has been steamrolling everybody and looking amazing while doing it. So give me the Dolphins over the Bills. Who you got, man?
I can't believe that the Bills. I get it. It's the Bills at home. It's
I
Josh
don't
Allen.
understand it. Listen, this is the same Bills team that just lost to Zach Wilson and the New York Jets 2 weeks ago. I get it that it was in New York and that it was September 11th. The Jets' magic was just happening that night, I guess. But it's the same team that 2 weeks ago looked like absolute dog poop against a garbage New York Jets offense. And now, all of a sudden, they're better than the Miami Dolphins, who just dropped 70 points. No, get the hell out of here. Give me Miami.
Yeah. I think the Dolphins defense, obviously the Dolphins scored 70 points. Their offense is incredible. I don't think their defense is talked about enough with Vic Fangio being the defensive coordinator. Like, because they haven't given up a ton of points really either. Like, they gave up 20 whatever to the Chargers, but the Chargers offense is good. They just make terrible decisions last minute. And I think if they get ahead and Josh Allen does what Josh Allen does and gets a little risky, like gets a little turnover prone, I think that it could fall apart for the Bills quite quickly. Like I don't think the Bills are as much of the juggernaut as I think their time's already passed. I don't think they can win a Super Bowl. They're not even the best team in their division anymore.
I'm not ready to go that far. I still like this Buffalo team a lot, but this Miami team, they have got something special on offense. Yeah. I mean, it's like what Mike McDaniel has done with that offense is incredible, and it's fun to watch. It's no surprise that he's, a product of the Shanahan tree, because his offense is very Shanahan-like, but it's as if he took all of the lessons from Shanahan and improved upon it and made it even more fun to watch.
Yeah, and got fast players too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this Miami team has got something special on the offensive side, and the defense has been fine. So this Buffalo team's going to be their biggest test, but I see them handling Buffalo no problem. Well, let's go from a absolute electric showdown in Buffalo to a real stinker. A real stinker at Soldier Field in Chicago, where we have the 0-3 Denver Broncos facing the 0-3 Chicago Bears. And even at home against a 0-3 team, the Bears are underdogs. Denver on the road, 3.5-point favorites. If you feel like throwing money away, tickets are as low as $97 for this absolute poop fest of a game. I saw a meme that said this game should be flexed to 3 a.m. on Tuesday, because who wants to watch this at all? I don't even know who to pick in this, man.
Can we just not pick this game? Can we just pretend like it isn't happening? Who decided that the Dolphins-Bills should be at the same time as this atrocity? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you finish a fantastic game, like the Bills-Dolphins is going to be incredible, and then it's like, okay, that game's over. We're going to switch to the other game we have on, and it's the Broncos-Bears 3-3 in the fourth quarter. Like,
yeah, listen, I don't need cutaways to this game when I'm trying to watch Red Zone on Sunday. Just let it happen and let all of us not know a thing about it.
Let's just not even play the game. Let's flip a coin somewhere. Let's just flip a coin. And this is, sadly, in week 4, this is the game for the number 1 overall pick.
I mean,
I don't know how it happened. I mean, there's a couple other teams that are 0-3, but I think those other teams are capable of sneaking a game out eventually. I don't know about these two. I don't know.
Somebody's got to win, and I have the Broncos getting the dub. On the sole fact that I have more faith in Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, just because of history, not because of anything they've done this year, but just because of history, that I have them winning. So, who are you taking?
You made the smart choice.
You're making the bold choice.
I'm gonna make the bold choice. There's no reason for this. You're gonna comment in the Discord, wow, picking the Bears is a dumb choice, and it is.
I mean, not against the Broncos though. Like, if there was a team they could beat, it might be the Broncos.
There's not been a more must-win game for any team than the Broncos. If the Broncos lose to the Bears, I don't, with Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, Cortland Sutton, Patrick Surtain, like, if you lose to the Bears with this team, you shouldn't be in the NFL.
It's it's not like they can do anything about it though, just because like they have the next like 6 years tied up in Russell Wilson, which maybe that's a mistake at this point. But it's not like they can do anything about it. They're stuck in the bed that they've made.
Yeah, and I think they're miserable, and the Bears are just accepting their fate, and I think they're going to maybe try some fun things because screw
maybe.
it, why not? They need to give their fans hope somehow. So,
Well-
yeah, I'm just going to take the Bears. I think the pressure is going to
Alright.
crumble on the Broncos, and their team's just not good enough to survive that pressure. I think the tension with, and again, I get all this Blake coming at me. Oh, there's no proof that there's any tension. You watch these games and tell me there's no tension between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, or anybody on that team and Russell Wilson.
I wouldn't be surprised if things continue that Russ doesn't get benched, just because I think Sean Payton is the kind of coach that would do that.
Well, Sean Payton didn't bench him. Like, that showed a lot. That Sean Payton didn't take Russell Wilson out of, like, he's not worried about protecting his quarterback. When you're down by 50, when you're down by 50 points, you're not worried about protecting your quarterback.
But I mean, I'll also, like, why would you? Like, obviously, there's still kinks that you have to work out in that offense. So even if you're down by 50 points, like, it's still an NFL game. You can still go out there and play an NFL defense and work on your offense and try and continue to build that chemistry between Russ and the rest of that team that's just not there.
I don't think you can have the morale to get good reps in when you're down by 50 points. That might just be me.
That might be true.
That might just be me. But if we're down by 50, I'm on the field like, what the heck are we even doing here? Why is there not a mercy rule to save us from this hell? Why are we still here? That would be my reaction to being on the field down 50-0.
You might be right. Well, let's move on over to Cleveland, where we have the Baltimore Ravens coming into town, coming off of a weird, kind of ugly loss to the Colts. Very interesting turn of events in that game. But they're heading into Cleveland to take on their division rival, Cleveland Browns, at home. This Browns team, 2.5-point favorites. I think this could be a close one again. But I'm taking the Ravens just because I have a little bit more faith in that team. I do think the Browns have a decent defense, but I can't trust that offense yet, especially missing Nick Chubb. So give me Baltimore in this one. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm also going Baltimore. They, again, last minute, or they had a chance to win in overtime. Or was it overtime, or was it they had a chance to win right before regulation?
So the kick, the 61-yarder from Tucker was in regulation.
Which, I mean, I get it was 61 yards, but also you're Justin Tucker. Like,
I mean,
that's one that he makes. Like, he's Mr. Automatic for a reason.
That kick looked like it was going in. I mean, it looked beautiful.
I turned away because it looked online, and I was like, oh, they did it. The game's over. And it's like, oh, nope. He was short. Like, what do you mean he was short?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's 61 yards. I can't fault the guy for missing 61 yards. But there was a couple of bad plays that led up to the 61-yard attempt. It should have been a little bit closer, but they kind of
yeah. That and the missed there was a missed call in the end zone on a fourth down or I'm trying to remember when it was. I think they went for 2 on a touchdown or something, but he got pulled down for pass interference, so they missed it. But it is what it is. That's football. That loss doesn't make me think any less of the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson is back in his, like, he had a decent day passing and throwing. He lost the football a couple times, which he still needs to work on. But for the most part, I think he can. Their running attack, I think, can. Again, if you learn anything from what Arizona did to Dallas, just look at where Myles Garrett is on the field and run the other way. That's all you got to do if you're Baltimore. And I think they can do it. I think they're a bit more balanced, whereas Cleveland is a bit more defense heavy. So I'm going to take Baltimore as well here.
Well, let's stick with some Ohio teams, and we'll move over to the 1-2 Cincinnati Bengals coming off their win on Monday night, heading into Nashville to take on the somehow 1-2 Tennessee Titans. On the road, the Bengals 2.5-point favorites. I like that line. I think it's pretty fair only because this Bengals team has not looked like the Bengals team that we expect them to be yet. But the Titans are still a pile of poop. So the Bengals should be favored. And I'm taking them to get the win on Sunday. But this one makes me a little nervous just because of how the Bengals have looked. I don't have faith in the Titans, but I won't be surprised if the Bengals lose this one. I don't think it will happen, but I won't be surprised just because they haven't looked like the Bengals.
Yeah.
So who you got, man?
I think I'm with you. I'm cautiously taking the Bengals. Again, I knew that they weren't going to sit Joe Burrow, but I think they should have just let him get healthy. And I think they still could now that they have a win under their belt. I think they still could start A.J. McCarron this week now that he's had some time in the offense and maybe still pull off a win against a not great Titans team.
I agree. Yeah.
Especially with how physical that Titans defense is. Like, if they get to Joe Burrow, it could be worse for them for the season. I know they're not going to. Joe Burrow even said that, like, they asked him to, and he said no. I'm still going to, again, cautiously pick Cincinnati, but I could see it going either way.
Yeah. It's a pick I don't love, but I'm hopeful for. Because I don't want to see the Titans win. Titans are terrible. I don't want to see them get wins.
Yeah.
Let's head over to Indianapolis, where we have the LA Rams coming into town to take on the Indianapolis Colts. Do we have any kind of update on Anthony Richardson, if he will be playing or if it will be Minshew mania continuing?
I'll look real quick.
Okay.
I honestly don't know if it matters because
I agree.
what I didn't think about was Shane Steichen, being the coach of the Colts, had Gardner Minshew as the backup on the Eagles all of last year. So Gardner Minshew already knew Shane Steichen's offense.
And Steichen looks like a great hire there in Indianapolis, too, through 3 games. I mean, the offense that he's created, that continues to roll, whether it's Anthony Richardson, whether it's Gardner Minshew, looks great. At home, Indy 1.5-point favorites. That's fair. I think a lot of that's probably due to not knowing who's going to play at quarterback and Vegas still having some faith in this Rams team that has shown sparks throughout the season. But I'm rolling with the Colts in this one. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm with you. He's still in concussion protocol as of yesterday. They didn't have any news out today, but it is Tuesday at the time of this recording. So,
okay.
I think they're aiming for him to play this week, but it just depends how concussion protocol goes. But either way, like we said, I think Gardner Minshew with Shane Steichen, like apparently that Eagles coaching tree is just, they had a phenomenal week 3.
Yep.
Maybe he can carry it into week 4 against a Rams team that's been a little streaky.
I mean, listen, I like Minshew. I think Minshew can get the job done against a lot of teams, especially a team like this Rams team that isn't maybe borderline good. Definitely has shown some flashes.
I mean, of the 3 games so far, they were the only one to even attempt to keep up with the 49ers in their game. So
we'll see what happens. Let's head on down to New Orleans, where we have Baker and the boys coming into town to take on famous Jameis, because I think Carr is still going to be out. Is that correct? I need an injury update.
Oh, God, oh, no.
Either way, at home, the Saints are 3-point favorites. maybe a little disrespectful to this Bucks team. The Bucks are 2-1. They've shown life. I think the offense has looked very good at times with Baker at the helm, not so great at other times. But I don't think the Saints are overwhelmingly better, especially if Jameis Winston's playing. But maybe old famous Jameis has a little bit of a revenge game against the Bucks team. He was there for a handful of years, had his famous 30-30 season there, which, while that is a great season in baseball, is not good in football. But give me the Bucks in this one. I like Baker getting it done. Who you got, man?
Derek Carr has a sprained AC joint and is week to week.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it that he's probably not playing this week. It might not be a serious injury, but I'm going to say he's not going to play in this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't think a lot. Like, I get that the Bucks were able to start 2-0, but they got smashed by the Eagles, and I think the
But
Saints.
it's also like it is Philly. Like let's remember that it is Philly.
Yeah, but I think the Saints are just better, and I think that Saints defense is still good enough to keep the Buccaneers offense at bay. And I think with a full week of QB1 reps, probably that Jameis can do enough to get it done, especially with having Alvin Kamara back.
Yep, that's definitely a big storyline for sure.
So I think I'm going to go against you on this one, and to make Blake mad, go with the Saints.
Hey, look, another one we disagree on.
That's what I'm here for.
Well, speaking of that Eagles team, let's head out to Philly where we have the Washington Commanders heading into town to take on the Philadelphia Eagles, the 3-0 undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. At home, Philly, 8-point favorites. It's 100% fair. They're one of the best teams in football. The Commanders, while they have shown life at times, just got their butts handed to them by Buffalo this past weekend. Give me the Eagles flying high in this one. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm with you there. As fun as it was to watch the Commanders get a couple wins through their first 2 weeks,
Fairy tale's over with.
It's a tough time having to play the Bills and the Eagles back to back. I mean, it is a divisional game. Anything is technically possible. Eric Bieniemy, just played the Eagles in the Super Bowl and knows that offense like pretty well, I think. But I don't think I don't think Sam Howell is enough to beat that team. So,
yeah,
the Eagles in one of our easier picks of the week, I would think.
I agree. Let's head on down to Charlotte, where we have the 0-3 Minnesota Vikings coming into town to take on the 0-3 Carolina Panthers. Just a fun time between two defeated teams on the road. For what it's worth, Minnesota 3.5-point favorites. Weirdly, I think it was Blake that posted this in the Discord earlier. Kirk Cousins is on pace for 6,000 yards?
Yeah, him and Tua still are the only ones.
6,000 yards, 50 plus touchdowns, and 9 picks, and going 0-17, which would be a dang miracle if that happens, and probably the first time that an MVP has been on a losing team. But yeah, this I don't know what to make of this Vikings team. They Brandon Staley tried to give them a win on Sunday, and Kirk Cousins decided to throw a pick in the end zone in what was just a mess of a game. At this point, in my opinion, Minnesota, get New York on the phone, call up the Jets, say, hey, look, we have this nice, shiny, top 10 level quarterback that can come replace your absolute poop of a quarterback in Zach Wilson. What do you want? Because this is Kirk's final year. It's a contract season. I highly doubt he'll continue playing in Minnesota after this year. I think at this point, Minnesota's probably moving on from him and just kind of entering a rebuild next season. And Kirk's not going to be a part of that. So that's not to say that Kirk's long-term home is in New York with the Jets, because they still have Aaron Rodgers for the next 3 years after this, I think was his contract. But you got to have somebody this season, or else you're not going to be making the playoffs, and Zach Wilson's not the guy. I think this is the guy. If the Vikings fall to 0-4 this week against the Carolina Panthers, you have to get them on the phone. You have to. So I say all that, and I'm picking the Vikings to win, but part of me kind of hopes that happens because I'd like to see Kirk in Gang Green out in New York. Who you got, man?
So it's funny you say that. Watching Pat McAfee today, it's Aaron Rodgers Tuesday. First time that I think he's back on Tuesdays since the injury, because he did a couple Fridays. Aaron Rodgers Tuesday on Pat McAfee show, where Joe Namath is on your side, saying that they should get a veteran QB, that Zach Wilson's not the guy.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers said, the coaches believe in Zach Wilson and that he believes in Zach Wilson, and he wishes everyone could be on the same page, as long as we stay divided, the worse it's going to be. Which I thought was an interesting take. I understand what he's saying, because I think being in the offseason with Zach Wilson, I think he did really form a bond with him, and I think he does actually think Zach Wilson is capable. And maybe he is. Maybe it's Nathaniel Hackett strikes once again, but he's offensive coordinator, so they're not looking as close.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I don't think the coaches are in the mindset to do that. I don't think they can afford to do that unless they trade for Aaron Rodgers straight up, which how funny would that be? But I'm with you. This is a must-win game for the Vikings, and I think they will be able to pull it off against just a young, rebuilding Panthers team that I think does have a future, but not a present. So give me the Vikings. Weird that we're getting all four 0-3 teams playing each other this week.
Yep.
Weird.
Yep.
It's like it's scripted.
Let's head out to Houston, where we have another rookie quarterback and young team trying to figure it out. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into town to take on the Houston Texans. On the road, this Steelers team are 3-point favorites. I don't know if I quite agree with that. I do think the Steelers are probably a better team, but I really like this Texans team. I think the Texans showed on Sunday exactly what I was talking about in our preview episodes of, hey, this team puts it all together. This is a team to watch out for. And I don't get me wrong, I don't expect that to necessarily continue, but could it continue against this Steelers team? Absolutely it could. And that is exactly why I'm taking the Houston Texans to get the win against Pittsburgh, even though I like Pittsburgh. I've been the driver of the Pickett train for whatever reason for the last 2 years. I like them, but I'm taking this Houston team. I think they've got a good thing going. Who you got, man?
Another one we are going to disagree on.
Hey.
I am taking the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that the Steelers defense is going to be too good for the young Texans offense. And I think this is going to be kind of a low-scoring defensive battle like most Steelers games have been.
Yeah.
Which, they put up a decent amount of points. They put up 23. That's probably around that range. It'll be in the 20s. One of them will probably be a defensive score. I think this defense, TJ Watt specifically, is just going to overwhelm the young talent on the Texans offense.
He could.
So yeah, I'm going to take the Steelers.
Not a bad pick. Let's head out to SoFi Stadium. We have the Las Vegas Raiders heading into town to take on the Los Angeles Chargers at home. The Chargers are 5.5-point favorites. Perfectly fine with that because the Raiders are just, who knows what they are. I like this Chargers team. I kind of wish that they would have lost on Sunday instead of getting a win handed to them by Kirk Cousins, because I truly believe Brandon Staley would have been fired after that game because of his absolute garbage call on 4th down to go for it. Just
Wild
Terrible.
stuff.
Staley struck again, and somehow it still worked out for him because Kirk Cousins decided to throw a pick. But, I'm going to still keep the Fire Brandon Staley hashtag going. We're still on that train, and hopefully they'll be able to string together some losses at some point this season to where that happens. But I don't think it happens on Sunday against the Raiders. I've got the Chargers. Who you got, man?
Man, this is also tough. There are two teams that should
fire both of their head coaches.
Should fire both their head coaches. Obviously, the Los Angeles Chargers are a lot more talented, but obviously, I don't know what's going on with Josh Jacobs. Devontae Adams is still very talented.
He's still firing.
Is trying to carry that team on his back. That being said, I'm going to agree with you and take the Chargers. I think they're way more talented. Mike Williams, unfortunately, is out for the season with a torn ACL.
Yep.
But that's never really been a huge issue for Los Angeles. They're used to not having one of their two lead receivers, for most of the season. So, I'm going to take the Chargers. I just think they're more talented. Both their coaches are idiotic, but I think the talent leads the Chargers' way. So,
yeah, I'm with you. Let's head out to Big D, where we have the New England Patriots heading into town to take on the Dallas Cowboys, coming off of that surprising loss to Arizona. Vegas obviously thinks there's nothing to worry about with this Cowboys team because they are still 7-point favorites. Maybe that says something about the Patriots, which it probably should, because this Patriots team has looked underwhelming for most of the season as well. I've got the Cowboys in this one. I don't particularly see this being a great game, but maybe it's a good game for Dallas to bounce back against this New England squad. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm going with the Cowboys as well. As much as I could see Bill Belichick getting into Dak's head maybe with the defense and slowing the offense down a little bit, I just don't see the New England offense doing anything against. And we said that about the Cardinals too. So we could be wrong. Patriots are a run-heavy team, and that's what beat Dallas last week with the Cardinals. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think the Patriots offense can get it done. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. I don't know. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys as well. There's just too much talent on that team for them to lose to two teams that are worse than them 2 weeks in a row.
Agreed. And speaking of that team that beat them, let's head out to Levi Stadium, where we have the Arizona Cardinals coming off that big win, heading in to Santa Clara to take on the San Francisco 49ers. You got a different beast this week, from one great defense to possibly the best defense in the 49ers. At home, San Francisco 14-point favorites, 100% fair. I'm rolling with the Niners. I don't see them losing this game at all. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm also rolling with the 49ers. If the Cardinals can pull off two of these upsets 2 weeks in a row, give them the Super Bowl now. Just give it to them.
let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy over that. But
but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to take the 49ers. I think the Cardinals could potentially make it fun, but I think the 49ers just have it more together. Whether you think Brock Purdy is the guy that everybody thinks he is, or if he's just a system QB, the system's really good.
He might be. Yeah.
The system is way more put together in San Francisco than it is in Dallas, and I think that's going to hold up, and I think the defense is going to hold up as well with a bit more power on the front. with Nick Bosa. So I'm going to go with the 49ers there.
Yep. That brings us to Sunday Night Football, which, about a month ago, this game looked way more interesting than it does now. But we have the Kansas City Chiefs heading into JetLife Stadium to take on the New York Jets, just floundering out there with Zach Wilson at the helm. On the road, KC 9.5-point favorites. That's a pretty big road spread, which I think says a lot about what Vegas thinks of this New York Jets squad. 100% fair. Don't get me wrong, I think the Jets defense is good enough to slow down Kansas City, but ain't no way that offense is going to be able to keep up with Mahomes and company. So give me the Chiefs all day.
Yeah, every single year, I think it's been pretty much every year, we're supposed to get a Mahomes-Rodgers matchup.
Always injuries,
and
man.
every single year, somebody, mostly Rodgers. I think there was one year that Mahomes
It was Mahomes.
hurt.
It was Mahomes 1 year.
Mahomes was hurt
Maybe 2
one
years,
year.
actually.
Mahomes was hurt 1 year. Rodgers was hurt another year. Rodgers had COVID another year.
Yeah, the
And
Jordan
then
Love
Rodgers is
game.
hurt this year.
Yep.
So, yeah, just that matchup, the State Farm Bowl, is never meant to be, I guess. We'll see, assuming when Rodgers comes back next year, everything he's said the last few weeks says that he wants to play. And apparently this experimental surgery he could play as early as this year if they're close to a playoff run.
Weirdly,
it doesn't look like they will be. But
Weirdly, the same thing happened to Rodgers versus Brady for most of their career, which it's tough because those, like Mahomes and Brady, both play in the AFC, and Rodgers most of his career was NFC, so it didn't line up to where they faced each other every year. But for most of his career as well, Rodgers versus Brady, it always was
maybe he just
an
doesn't
injury
like
of some
good
sort.
quarterbacks.
I know there was 1 year that he had a concussion when they were supposed to be playing each other. Just that's the way it happens out sometimes.
Yeah, super weird. Happens all the time. Thought maybe fresh start on a new team, we were going to get it this year.
Yeah.
But nope, we don't get it. Either way, I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs. We talked about how good their defense was earlier, and this offense for the Jets have not been able to get anything going.
Yep.
And while the Jets defense might slow down the young receivers of the Kansas City Chiefs, you still got, Travis Kelce is healthy and probably happier than ever right now.
Maybe.
Taylor Swift is, I think her home is in New York, so there's also a good chance she's at this game. I don't know.
Probably.
Let's see if she does it 2 weeks in a row. Obviously that's a huge factor. So yeah.
Is it a huge factor?
Yeah. You know how much it has to get in the other team's head to be like the most famous person in the world is here rooting against me? That's gotta.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Let's stay in New Jersey, moving from Sunday Night Football over to Monday Night Football, where we have the Seattle Seahawks heading into town to take on the New York Giants. Don't know how this worked out, but at home, the Giants are 1.5-point favorites. I don't like that line. I think the Seahawks are definitely a better team. I think this Giants team is fraudulent. I said it last year. I think they have not looked good this year. They put it together for one half against a garbage team. Rest of the time, it's been a bunch of poop. So give me Seattle all day, Monday Night Football. Who you got, man?
I am shocked at the line because I thought this was going to be my spiciest pick of the day. And now Vegas agrees with me, and I'm very confused.
Oh, don't tell me you're buying into the Giants hype again.
They're going to have Saquon back.
I don't care.
I think they can do it.
Saquon was there in week 1. What'd he do then?
Well, yeah, but that was Dallas. This is Seattle.
Who cares?
Seattle's defense isn't that good.
I mean, I agree it's not Dallas good, but
I don't know. Both, I don't know. I feel like anything can happen this game, and I don't know why. I like, again, might not be the logical pick. I just think the Giants can be fun when they're playing well, and I want them to play well. So
listen,
that's what I'm rooting for.
I will give the Giants a pass for 2 of their 3 games because it happened to be against the Cowboys and the Niners. You get a pass for 2 of those games, which do happen to be your 2 losses. But what the hell happened for the first half against this Cardinals team?
The Cardinals just beat the Cowboys.
The Cardinals
What do you
are
mean?
not right. It is surprising, but they're not a good team.
Listen, there's some anomaly happening, but I don't think the anomaly with the Giants being down to the Cardinals is that the Giants are bad. I think the
Oh,
Cardinals
they definitely are.
the Cardinals are overperforming to a point consistently. And I don't know how it's happening. That's why I'm like, if the Cardinals somehow pull out a win against the 49ers, literally anything can happen in this league.
All right.
I think this is a must win for the Giants, especially with the rest of their division. You know, they're last in their division right now, so if they have any hope of making it to the playoffs, they need to win some more games, and I think this game is winnable for them. So I'm going to go with the Giants.
I will agree with you that it is winnable for them. I'm too tired to argue with you about the rest of the points.
Yes, that's the only victory I need.
But I do not think the Giants are good. I think the Seahawks are at least somewhat good. So, yeah, that's my reasoning.
I'm still shocked that Vegas thinks the Giants are.
Yeah, I'm shocked by that as well.
Like, I thought it was a spicy pick, but
Well,
damn.
no maracas for you.
dang it, Vegas.
All right. Well, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us in whatever capacity you're doing so. If you're watching us on YouTube, hey, thanks for hanging out. Maybe click that subscribe, follow button. We do this every Tuesday. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, whatever product, hey, we appreciate you doing that as well. If you can leave us a review, we'd be much appreciative. Follow us on our socials if you want, at Booth Review Pod or at Booth Review Sports. Just take a gamble and see which one it is. Hop into the Discord. Hopefully it's a good gamble. Hopefully it pays off for you. Hop into the Discord and come talk some sports with us. But as always, I believe that is that.
Ka-chow. I just realized I was Xing out of stuff and turned off my camera before we were technically done. So I hope no one was watching to see that mistake.
You're good.